Have you ever felt like nothing is changing, even though you keep trying? You study English every day. You listen, you read, you repeat words again and again. But when you look at yourself, you whisper, "Why am I still not fluent?" My friend, I know that feeling. It's quiet. It's heavy. It feels like you are walking through fog, trying to see the road ahead. But today, I want you to know something important. Your quiet progress is more powerful than you think. Let's go on a small journey together. I want to tell you stories about people who didn't shine loudly, who didn't show off, who didn't move fast, but who changed their lives one small, invisible step at a time. As you listen, I want you to relax. Let the words flow like a movie inside your mind. Listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because these stories are about you too, about the quiet moments that no one sees, the slow practice that no one celebrates, and the strength that grows in silence. Our first story begins with a girl named Lena. She was 22, living in a small town by the sea. Every morning before sunrise, when the world was still half asleep, Lena would make a cup of tea, sit by her window, and listen to English stories on her old phone. Her friends didn't know about it. Her family thought she was just daydreaming. But Lena was building something invisible, a quiet rhythm of learning. She didn't study for exams. She didn't have a teacher. She didn't post her progress online. She just listened 10 minutes, 20 minutes, every day. Sometimes she understood every sentence. Sometimes she understood only a few words. But she kept going. One morning, as the sky turned golden, Lena heard a simple sentence in a story. You don't notice flowers growing, but one day the garden is full of them. Those words stayed in her heart. Because that's exactly how she felt about her English. Nothing dramatic. No big change. But little by little, something inside was blooming. When her cousin from London visited, Lena spoke a few sentences in English without planning them. Her cousin smiled and said, "Wow, you sound so natural now." Lena laughed shyly. She didn't even realize it had happened. That's the thing about quiet progress. It surprises you when you least expect it. You see, learning English or learning anything is not about being fast or loud. It's about showing up quietly, again and again, even when nobody sees you. So, if you ever feel like nothing is changing, remember Lena. Remember the girl who listened alone by the sea. Every morning cup of tea, every word she repeated, it was all building her future voice. And maybe, in your own way, you're doing the same. Now, take a breath. Feel that calm inside you. Let's continue our journey. Because the next story will show you something even deeper, how silence can sometimes teach us more than sound. In every office, there's someone who doesn't speak much. They sit in the corner, quietly doing their work, listening carefully, thinking before they talk. People sometimes mistake their silence for weakness. But silence, my friend, is not weakness. It's observation, it's learning, it's growth in disguise. This story is about Ravi, a young man who moved to another country for his first job. He worked in a small marketing company where everyone spoke fast English, too fast. During meetings, words flew around like birds, impossible to catch. Ravi tried to follow, but often got lost. He nodded politely, smiled when others smiled, and wrote notes even when he didn't understand everything. Every evening, he went home feeling quiet, not sad, not angry, just quiet. He would look at his notebook filled with half sentences and strange phrases, and he would whisper, "One day I'll understand all of this." And that whisper, that small promise, became his power. He didn't complain. He didn't compare. He simply listened. Every day, in every meeting, he picked one new expression and repeated it softly to himself. When his boss said, "Let's circle back to that later," Ravi wrote it down. He searched for the meaning that night. When his colleague said, "It's a bit of a stretch, but let's try," He practiced saying it while brushing his teeth. He didn't even realize it, but his English brain was growing quietly, piece by piece. He was learning how people really speak, not from textbooks, but from life. 1 month passed. Then 3. Then 6. Ravi stayed the same, calm, observant, patient. Until one morning, something small but magical happened. During a meeting, his boss asked for ideas about a new project. Usually, Ravi would just sit back and take notes. But that day, without thinking, he spoke. Maybe we can try something different. Maybe we can create small videos for each product. The room went quiet for a second. Everyone turned to look at him. And then, the boss smiled. That's a great idea, Ravi. Let's do that. It was only one sentence. But that single moment changed something inside him. He realized his silence had been working for him all along. He had been listening his way to confidence. So many English learners think they need to speak fast to improve. But that's not true. Listening, truly listening, is one of the strongest ways to grow. When you listen deeply, you learn the rhythm of the language. You learn how ideas connect, how emotions sound, how people breathe between words. Ravi didn't need to speak loudly to make progress. He needed to be patient. His quiet observation became his secret teacher. And that's something you can do too. You don't need to rush to speak perfectly. Just listen, really listen, to English around you. Podcasts, stories, conversations, or even this very narration. Let it fill your ears, your thoughts, your heart. Because even in silence, your English is growing, just like Ravi's did. That's the beauty of quiet progress. It doesn't announce itself. It simply waits until one day, your confidence speaks for you. Now, as our journey continues, I want to take you somewhere completely different, far from offices and meetings, to a place where quiet progress happens not through listening, but through writing. A story about a woman who began to write one English sentence every night before bed, and how that small act changed her world. There was a woman named Maya. She wasn't a student anymore. She had a busy life, work, family, tired evenings, too many things to think about. But there was one small habit she never let go of. Every night before she slept, she opened a small notebook, took her pen, and wrote one English sentence. Just one. Sometimes two. Never more than that. It started one winter night when she felt lost in her English learning journey. She had tried many things: online lessons, vocabulary lists, grammar books, but her words still felt heavy, her sentences unsure. One evening, she sat by her window and whispered, "I wish I could speak with ease." And in that moment, she decided to do something simple. She wrote her first sentence. "Today I am tired, but I am proud of myself." That was all. No rules, no pressure, no perfect grammar. Just feelings in English. She closed her notebook and went to sleep. The next night, she wrote again. "I saw the moon tonight. It looked peaceful." And the night after that, "I talked to my friend. I tried to speak in English." Days passed, then weeks, and slowly something quiet began to change. At first, Maya didn't notice it, but her sentences started to grow longer, clearer, softer. Her words became more natural. When she spoke English at work, the sentences she had written at night came to her like old friends, gentle and familiar. Sometimes she made mistakes, yes. Sometimes she wrote things that didn't make sense. But it didn't matter, because she had created her own little world of English, one that was safe, honest, and personal. Her notebook became a mirror. It showed her growth in silence. She didn't post it online. She didn't show it to anyone. It was her private garden, and every sentence was a seed. One evening, her daughter asked, "Mom, why do you write every night?" Maya smiled and said, "Because I want my English to sound like me, not like a textbook." And that, my friend, was the truth. She wasn't just learning English. She was living it, one quiet sentence at a time. You see, progress doesn't always need big results. It needs rhythm. It needs heart. It needs you to keep showing up, even in small ways. Maybe you can do the same. Take a notebook. Write one English sentence every night. It can be about your day, your dreams, or your thoughts. Don't worry about mistakes, because mistakes are proof that you are alive, learning, and trying. Maya's story reminds us that even the smallest action, repeated with love, can lead to quiet transformation. And one day, when you look back at your sentences, you'll see not just words, you'll see your journey. Now let's move to another story, one that shows a different kind of quiet strength. This time, it's about a man who was afraid to speak, but who learned that courage can grow in silence too. A story about fear, patience, and the power of one brave word. His name was Kenji. He worked in a small cafe in a busy city where tourists came from all over the world. Every day, he served coffee, smiled politely, and listened to customers speaking English. They spoke quickly, naturally, full of laughter and sound. Kenji understood some words, but not everything. So he listened and stayed quiet. He wanted to speak, but every time he tried, his heart beat too fast. His mouth opened, but the words hid inside. He thought, my English is not good enough. They'll laugh. They won't understand me. And so he stayed silent. One afternoon, a traveler from Australia came in. She smiled at him and said, "Hi there. How are you today?" Kenji froze. He wanted to answer, but his voice didn't come out. He nodded quickly, smiled, and gave her the coffee. When she left, he felt something heavy in his chest, a mix of sadness and frustration. That night, on his way home, he looked at the city lights and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I will speak one word. Just one word." That was his goal. Not a full sentence, not a perfect conversation, just one word spoken with courage. The next morning, the cafe was busy again. The same traveler came in. She smiled and said, "Good morning. Can I have the same coffee?" Kenji took a breath. He remembered his promise. And with a small but clear voice he said, "Yes." That was it. Just one word. But it was his word. And it changed everything. After that day, he spoke another word. Then two. Then a short sentence. "How are you? Enjoy your coffee. Have a nice day." Each word was a tiny victory. Each sentence was a quiet celebration. He didn't realize it then, but every brave moment was teaching his tongue to trust itself again. It's like when a bird learns to fly one small flap at a time. The flight begins quietly, almost invisibly, until one day the sky opens. Months later, when new tourists arrived, Kenji was no longer afraid. He greeted them with a gentle smile and a warm, natural tone. He still spoke slowly. He still made mistakes. But he was free. You see, courage doesn't begin with confidence. Courage creates confidence. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, one word at a time. Kenji's story is a reminder for every English learner. If you feel scared to speak, it's okay. Start small. Say one word, then two, then keep going. Because every quiet yes, every whispered hello, every small effort, they all build your voice. And here's something beautiful. Kenji didn't just improve his English. He changed his life. He started believing in his voice again. That quiet belief spread into other parts of his life too. His confidence at work, his friendships, his dreams. That's what quiet progress does. It doesn't just improve your English. It transforms who you are. Now let's travel to a new story, one that lives between music and memory. A young woman who discovered that understanding English songs wasn't just about listening, it was about feeling. A story of rhythm, language, and emotion. Her name was Sophia, and she loved music more than anything. When she was a child, she would fall asleep listening to the radio. She didn't understand the English lyrics, but she felt them deep inside. The rhythm, the emotion, the voices, they spoke a language beyond words. As she grew older, her love for music only deepened. But there was something that always made her sad. She could sing the melody, but not the meaning. She could hum the tune, but not understand the words. One day, she was listening to a song she had heard 1,000 times before, "Fix You" by Coldplay. And she thought, maybe tonight, I will finally understand what this song is saying. So she opened the lyrics online, put on her headphones, and listened line by line. When you try your best, but you don't succeed. Those first words touched something in her heart. She realized this song was not just about sadness. It was about quiet hope, about trying again, about the light that comes after darkness. From that night, Sophia started a new habit. Every evening, She would choose one English song and listen to it carefully, not just to hear it, but to feel it. She would close her eyes, listen to every sound, and whisper the lyrics softly, slowly. Lights will guide you home. Sometimes she didn't understand every word. Sometimes she had to pause and look up the meaning. But she didn't rush. She let the words sink into her heart first, and the understanding came later. Soft sound of pages turning, notebook flipping. She kept a small notebook beside her bed where she wrote lines that inspired her. Lines like, "You're stronger than you think. Don't stop believing. You can learn to fly." At first, they were just song lyrics. But after a while, she realized they were also messages to herself. Each lyric became a quiet friend whispering, "Keep going, Sophia. You're learning." Months passed. One evening, her younger brother asked her, "How can you understand English songs now? You never took classes." Sophia smiled and said, "I listened with my heart first. My brain followed." That was her secret. She didn't study English the hard way. She lived it through sound, emotion, and music. You see, when you connect English with something you love, it stops being just a language. It becomes a feeling, a rhythm, a part of you. That's why listening to songs, podcasts, or stories is so powerful, because your mind learns while your heart enjoys. And when both work together, your English grows naturally, like waves shaping the shore. Sophia's story teaches us that understanding doesn't always begin with translation. It begins with connection, with curiosity, with love. So maybe tonight, when you listen to your favorite English song, don't try too hard to understand every line. Just listen. Feel it. Let the music speak to you. Because language is not only words, it's emotion. And emotion is something we all understand. Now, as we leave the ocean behind, let's walk into a quieter place, a small library, where another kind of silence lives. A silence filled with books, patience, and invisible learning. Our next story is about Noah, a man who thought he was failing at English until one small moment changed how he saw everything. Noah loved books. He loved the smell of them, the weight of them, the promise of something new hidden inside. But there was one problem. Most of the books he loved were written in English. And reading them was hard. He had been learning English for 2 years. He could read simple stories, yes. But novels? Articles? Real books? They felt like mountains. Every page had new words. Every paragraph felt like a puzzle. He often closed the book and sighed, whispering, "Maybe I'm just not good enough yet." Still, something inside him wouldn't give up. He carried a small paperback novel in his backpack wherever he went, an old copy of The Alchemist. He told himself, even if I read 1 page a day, I will keep going. So he did. Every night after dinner, Noah sat by the window, opened his book, and began to read slowly, very slowly. Sometimes it took him 10 minutes to finish 1 paragraph. Sometimes he had to look up every other word. But he stayed patient. At first, he felt like he wasn't improving. The same words confused him again and again. He thought, why am I not faster by now? Maybe I'm not smart enough for this. But one evening, something small happened. He was reading a passage where the main character looked at the desert and said, when you really want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Noah read that line once, then twice, then 3 times. And suddenly he understood, not word by word, but as a whole, as a feeling. He didn't need the dictionary. He didn't need translation. He just understood. He sat there for a moment, smiling to himself, because he realized maybe progress doesn't happen when you study harder. Maybe it happens quietly when you least expect it. After that day, reading no longer felt like failure. It felt like discovery. Every difficult sentence became a challenge, not a punishment. Every new word was a tiny light in the dark. He began to notice something else too. His thinking started to change. When he looked at the world, he began to describe it in English in his mind. The trees outside his window, the sound of rain, the feeling of tiredness after work. He thought in English, not because he forced himself, but because the stories he read had started to live inside him. That's what quiet progress feels like. It's invisible. It's silent. It's the kind of growth you can't measure, but one day it reveals itself in the most beautiful way. Maybe you felt like Noah too. Maybe you've opened an English book and felt lost, tired, or slow. But don't give up, because every page you read, even if you don't understand it all, is still building your English mind. Every sentence is a small seed, and one day those seeds will bloom. You'll look back and realize that every difficult page was helping you grow stronger. Noah's story reminds us that learning English is not about speed. It's about staying present. Reading slowly, listening deeply, speaking bravely, these are all quiet ways of growing. So, next time you pick up a book, don't worry if it feels hard. Just read 1 paragraph. Let the words rest inside you, because understanding will come quietly, naturally, in its own time. And now, as our journey continues, we meet someone who found growth not through books or listening, but through helping others. A story about how teaching, even in small ways, can help you learn more deeply than you ever imagined. Her name was Amira, and she was an English tutor in her small town. But deep down, she still felt like a student. Every time she stood in front of her class, holding her notebook, she thought, "How can I teach when I'm still learning myself?" Amira loved English. She loved the way it sounded, the way simple words could carry deep emotion. But sometimes, when she tried to explain grammar or pronunciation, she felt unsure. Her students looked up to her, expecting answers, and she thought, "What if I make a mistake?" Still, she showed up every day. She greeted her students with a smile and said softly, "Good morning, everyone. Let's learn something beautiful today." Her class was small, 6 children, curious and full of questions. They didn't care if Amira's accent wasn't perfect. They didn't notice if she paused to think. They only saw her kindness, her patience, her love for English. One afternoon, after class, one of her students, a shy boy named Kareem, stayed behind. He said quietly, "Miss Amira, I want to speak English like you, but I make too many mistakes." She smiled and sat beside him. "Kareem," she said, "do you know what? I make mistakes too, every single day." His eyes widened. "You? But you're the teacher." Amira laughed softly. "Yes, but I'm also still learning. Every time I teach you, I learn something new. Every time I correct you, I remember my own lessons." She looked out the window, where sunlight painted golden lines on the floor, and added, "Learning never ends. Even teachers are students of life." That night, Amira went home thinking about what she had said. And she realized something powerful. Her quiet progress was not just in the books she read or the lessons she taught. It was in her patience, her courage, her ability to keep learning with humility. From that day, she changed the way she taught. Instead of hiding her mistakes, she shared them. When she forgot a word, she laughed and said, "See? Even your teacher forgets sometimes." When she learned a new phrase, she brought it to class and said, "Let's learn this together." Her students began to smile more. They became less afraid of making mistakes. They started to see English not as a test, but as a journey, a shared one. And that's when Amira realized teaching is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about walking beside others while you keep walking your own path. Soft background sound of chalk on the board, calm voice. You see, when you help others learn, your own understanding deepens. When you explain something, you hear yourself more clearly. When you share what you know, your brain organizes knowledge in a stronger way. That's why quiet teachers like Amira grow faster than they realize, because every small act of teaching becomes a step of learning. Maybe you're not a teacher in a classroom, but perhaps you've helped a friend practice English. Maybe you've corrected someone gently or encouraged them to speak. That too is teaching. And in that moment, you're growing, just like Amira did. So remember, you don't need to be perfect to help others. You just need to care. You just need to share. Because learning and teaching are not two different paths. They're the same quiet road, walked together, step by step. And now, as the sun begins to set on our journey, we move to the final story. A reflection that ties everything together, about silence, effort, and believing in your slow but unstoppable progress. Sometimes, the world can feel loud. People post their successes online, new jobs, new certificates, fluent conversations, perfect pronunciation. And you, sitting quietly in your room, repeating simple English phrases to yourself, might feel invisible. You might wonder, am I even improving? But let me tell you something beautiful. Growth doesn't always make noise. It often happens in silence. It happens in the quiet spaces between effort and patience. In those long evenings when you practice alone, whispering sentences into the night. In those mornings when you listen to English podcasts on your way to work, not understanding everything, but still listening. That quiet voice inside you, the one that says, try again. That's your true strength. It's not loud. It's steady. And it never leaves you. Remember the stories we shared? Lucas, the runner who didn't give up. Mia, who found her voice in small conversations. Noah, who read one page at a time until English began to bloom inside him. And Amira, the teacher who kept learning with every lesson she taught. They all had one thing in common. They believed in quiet progress. They didn't rush. They didn't compare. They simply kept moving forward, step by step, day by day. And you, listening now, are just like them. Every time you choose to listen in English, you are growing. Every time you speak, even when you hesitate, you are building courage. Every time you learn a new word, you are shaping your voice. Maybe your English still feels slow. Maybe you forget words. Maybe you still feel shy when speaking. That's okay. Because fluency doesn't come suddenly, it unfolds, like dawn after a long night. You don't notice it happening, but one morning, you'll wake up and realize you can understand more. You'll join a conversation and surprise yourself. The words will flow more easily. You'll listen to an English story and feel the emotions without translating. And you'll smile quietly because you'll know you've grown. Quiet progress is powerful because it's built on consistency. It's not about studying 10 hours a day. It's about showing up every single day, even for 10 minutes. It's about choosing not to quit, even when it feels slow. That's where true strength lies, in patience. And this is true not only for English, but for life. Everything meaningful grows quietly, a seed becoming a tree, a child learning to walk, a heart learning to heal. And your English journey is no different. So tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to remember this. You are not behind. You are not slow. You are not failing. You are growing silently, surely, beautifully. Every small word you learn, every sentence you repeat, every story you listen to, they're all shaping the voice you're becoming. Your quiet progress is powerful. It's preparing you for moments you can't yet see. Moments when your English will carry your ideas, your dreams, your true self to the world. So, don't stop. Every quiet day of practice builds your future voice. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep moving forward. Because even when it's silent, you're growing. And one day, the world will hear the voice that your silence has been building all along. Fluent English Journey. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for believing in your quiet progress. You are part of a growing community of English learners who know that the most powerful growth often begins in silence. Take a deep breath, smile, and say to yourself softly, I am improving every day. Good night, and keep shining quietly, confidently, beautifully.